Welcome to Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on RiotRadio.ca. I'm your host, Justin, and with me behind the scenes, I have Eldon. Eldon, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back. We have a brand new episode today as we were talking about, oh my god, say that again. Spider-Man Brand New Day. This trailer dropped yesterday, and I feel like there's no better time to talk about Spider-Man than today. And I just think that we have a lot to uncover because there's a lot that was in this trailer, and I'm very excited. So we're not going to dilly-dally at all. Spider-Man Brand New Day. It is here. Wow, the trailer's finally here, and there's a lot to discuss. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to this movie. I think the main reason for me is that finally for Tom Holland, he becomes the first Spider-Man to have a Spider-Man 4. You know, Tobey Maguire, he didn't have it. Andrew Garfield's third movie got canceled. Tom Holland was in some, then was out of some, then back in some, and now he finally gets a Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man Brand New Day. And this is, wow, man, a lot of emotions to talk about here for the character of Peter Parker. But we're going to start off, I'm kind of going to break this down into three different aspects. First of all, we have to adjust the more street characters close to Peter, who we're going to get to. Then we have some of the internal struggles to go over, and then the best of the rest. So other characters, references, wants, needs, all that jazz. So starting up first, we have Peter trying to win back his friends Ned and MJ. Now, after the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, as we all remember, nobody, well, no pun intended, but nobody does remember who Peter Parker is. So this was the last moment that they had together, and unfortunately for Tom Holland's adaptation, they don't remember him. And so Ned and MJ, they're starting university, and Peter's just not there for the ride, which is very unfortunate. And now in the movie, we are seeing this. So Peter's had different attempts to try and get back into their lives, one of them being this letter, which I thought was such a cool and grounded nod. It really humanizes Spider-Man the way Peter Parker has always done. And then the next scene that we saw that kind of, was trying to make the attempt was the good old university party. He shows up and he says something along the lines of Spider-Man needs to make the decisions that might even break Peter Parker's heart. And this is just the first kind of impact that we have, the first contact, but then we see MJ with another guy. And for all my Star Wars friends out there, your eyes do not deceive you. That is Ezra, played by Eman Esfandi from Ahsoka, who is allegedly playing Paul in this movie. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, you know the impact that Paul has on the relationship of Peter and MJ. Eldon's booing behind the scenes. And I think just while we take a second with all that information, there's a lot to dive into with just that. And I think when you look at MJ throughout this trailer, she is connecting the dots. And this is a scene where MJ's glued to the TV watching Spider-Man, and it's like Ned is kind of like a fan, as you see with that facial expression, but Zendaya kind of portrays a concerned look, like almost like a personal concern look. And then another scene that happens later on is this, and now Spider-Man is looking down on MJ. They don't have eye contact, and I'm sure Zendaya's MJ has said something to Tom Holland's Spider-Man in that scene, which leads us to all this. So a lot to unpack, but let's just dive into that on its own. So starting off with Ned and MJ, I really want Peter to get them back in some way, shape, or form, but I could see a twist that only one of them accepts him back. I think in this case, it would be MJ. I know for years now, everyone online has teased that Ed is going to become the Hobgoblin. Now, I don't know if that's still going to be a thing. However, maybe this time around, Ned is like, nah, you're not my boy. Like, we didn't make those Legos together. We didn't fail those tests together. We didn't pass those tests together, I should say, because they were, pretty smart. So I could honestly see that kind of factoring in. But then when you look at MJ, who obviously had a romantic interest in Peter Parker the first time around, I could see that kind of playing into why the feelings are going to return, if that makes sense, for lack of better words. Now, when it comes to Paul, now I'm really excited to see Paul just played by Eman, only because I have met Eman Estefandi. He did sign a Funko Pop for me. I think I talked about that in a past episode, so that is my dog. So I remember we had like a 10-minute conversation about Star Wars. Really cool guy. I don't know when, but I hope I'm able to meet him again soon, now that he's gone official big time joining the MCU, but that's still my dog right there. And just going over the connecting the dots again. Now, I think what'll be interesting are the scenes of MJ on her own without Ned or without any other classmates or friends or family involved, because that's based off of her character in the previous films. she's very like independent on that kind of circuit. No one's going to tell her how to feel. No one's going to suggest how she should feel. She's going to come up with those intuitions on her own. And I think that's a really key part to Spider-Man winning MJ back. A lot of different adaptations that we've seen of MJ in the past haven't really been my favorite, in all honesty. I'm never a fan of Mary Jane. I always hope he gets with Gwen or literally anyone else. But in this one, and I was saying this to Carsoon of Talking Nonsense yesterday, I really like Zendaya's adaptation because it's not even your traditional Mary Jane Watson either. And with that being said, that's probably why I like it the most. So I'm really rooting for those two to get back together. And I think that it's not like an obvious thing, but I think the way that they get to them coming back together is not necessarily going to be obvious, and I'm excited for that. And I just think before we fully move on from these two characters, I just think it would be almost an injustice, no pun intended, if we had replacements. But I will say, and I couldn't really point him out in the trailer, but if he loses Ned as his best friend, but is later on replaced by Harry Osborn or someone else in that realm, maybe even Lonnie, because we know Tombstone is going to be in it, I wouldn't even mind that either. And Eldon behind the scenes, Flash Thompson, that's another person that could replace that void. I'm not really too familiar with Ned's character in the comics. I really like the adaptation in the live action. But with that being said, if we lost Ned to then in turn get one of the three that we just mentioned, I'm okay with that personally. So moving on now, we have the next part of this trailer slash, I guess, battle, if you will. So we haven't even discussed any of the villains, but there's only one thing that's really getting to Peter in this trailer, and it's himself. He's going through as they word it in the trailer, a genetic mutation. And and so he wakes up in a web cocoon, and this is obviously a reference to many Spider-Man adaptations in the past. It was really cool to see because he even falls down and he uses literally just his, I guess, himself, his webs. I know that's it's referencing to A No Way Home, where both Tom and Andrew's adaptations were surprised that Tobey's could do that, but now it seems like Tom Holland's adaptation could finally do it. And then the next scene that I really can't wait to see in live action is the headaches that he was having, and the spider senses were just going off and off and off. And I think this too, again, it just really humanizes the character of Peter Parker, because for us, if we have a headache at work, okay, just get some water, get an Advil, and you're good. When you have spider-like abilities and spider-like senses, a headache is not just something that could be cured with Advil. So I'm definitely excited to see how this affects him. Maybe he's trying to save a civilian and then he has a headache and the robbers like get in the way. You never know what this could do. And again, it's such a small thing, but I really like that they included this. And then this leads to him doing a DNA scan. And what's really cool about this is that this scene, like in full, was cool because then you saw like his anatomy, and then you saw results. Some people were speculating like the Venom symbiote was in the results. It just wasn't, so I wasn't trying to get all those ones. And you see a document that he does bring to a familiar face. That face would be not Ed Norton. This is Mark Ruffalo, but all jokes aside, yeah, Mark Ruffalo is back playing Dr. Banner. We see he's Eldon's booing back there, but we see he's teaching a lecture, I should say, and he says, "So, Dr. Banner, I need some help," and he just simply goes, "What was your name again?" So, just while we take all of that in, now there is a lot to really discuss on this scene alone, and I'm going to start there. So in Marvel Comics, which I don't read a lot of, but I do see in passing, and I do hear from Eldon a lot, that when Doctor Strange did do that spell, that Bruce Banner did forget, but the Hulk remembered that he was Spider-Man. And so, yeah, or vice versa, depending on the adaptation. So with that being said, I don't think this one has Banner knowing, because, well, obviously, but I think the Hulk is going to start, like, coming out more within this film, and I think that's when it's going to be, okay, cool, yeah, we fully remember that you are Spider-Man, you are Peter Parker, you're my Avenger, let's do this. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see. And I think, and like, this is really important for Marvel to do, don't give us cheesy Mark Ruffalo again. Like, he was such a cool character in Avengers 2011. I don't want this to be She-Hulk Mark Ruffalo. I keep saying Mark Ruffalo. I should say Bruce Banner. I don't want this to be She-Hulk Bruce Banner. I don't want this to be like Natasha Romanoff is the only one that could calm him down, Bruce Banner. Like, give me the Hulk. Give me like an actual mentor the way we've seen in the comics. Give me an actual presence on the battlefield if need be. Don't give this as like, okay, here, Mark Ruffalo, here's $10 million, cameo for 2 minutes and get seats in the audience. films. If he's going to be in the movie, I really want him to have a bigger role than just, hey man, he played the Hulk once upon a time. So that's all I have to say on that. And now moving on. So these are, oh man, these next two images are really like intriguing me. So we'll start there. So as I mentioned, that he's going through a mutation, which is altering his powers and his appearance. And we see this really cool scene in the trailer where his eyes just go fully black. And this was we'll elaborate on this scene after. And they look a lot like spider eyes. And like it's just crazy because like you even got like a little bit of red showing in there. I know this because I watch Eldino and Eldon's Arc, and he talks all about animals. So really cool there. And this could only mean to me one indication that we might just get Man Spider, or a live action version of Man Spider from the original comics and TV show from the 90s. I don't know how it would look, but modern effects and CGI tell me that it could either look really good or really bad. And so that's where I'm like on the fence. But sticking to this now, this is a character adaptation that I didn't think I would ever see in live action. Kind of reminds me of Onslaught from X-Men. Like, I don't know how good Onslaught would look in live action, but it would look phenomenal in animation. Same with Man Spider. Let's say this was an updated, like, I guess, image from the 2020s. This would look a lot better. But this is from 94, I believe, sometime around there. So I'm really intrigued to see what we get with a potential Man Spider. Now, he always, when I was a kid, this character always reminded me of Man Bat from Batman. It's a pretty similar concept, only in Man Bat's case, it's not actually Bruce Wayne. It's just a separate character. But in this, seeing Peter Parker go through a transformation to go from Spider-Man to Man Spider is going to be a really trippy thing to see in live action. You know, I don't think he has any part in this, but I think the character of Man Spider would have been great under Sam Raimi. But this time around, the MCU, they're going to take it. I hope if we get Man Spider that he's very scary and he's not just like, not stupid looking, for lack of better words. So I'm praying that when that reveal happens, the theater is like shook. I don't want to hear like cheers. I don't want to hear like, oh my God, this is so sick. I want to hear gasps. And I want to see like, if Man Spider's going to be there, just kill like 10 prison guards for the sake of. Like, I want to see a like horror-ish scene to really like give the character that proper introduction. So I'm really looking forward to see how Tom Holland goes from Spider-Man to Man Spider in Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I think it's going to be a really cool moment for a lot of MCU fans. And so yeah, just while we move on now to the next part that I want to talk about. Now this is pretty cool. So we're going to move on to more or less just like the best of the rest, my reflection on the trailer. What did I love? What do I want to see? And I think the first thing that really caught my eye, and a lot of people's eyes as well, were the comic references. Now this is one that I have here. This is like, oh man, so cool. I don't know anything about Boomerang outside of that comic cover, and now we have him literally in live action for this. And hot take, he might use boomerangs, but thank you for that one, Eldon. But no, I thought this was really cool. There was more references as well throughout the trailer, and I'm sure we'll discuss that again. But one thing that I really enjoy about Spider-Man as a whole is these kinds of references, honestly. Like, when you think back to Spider-Man, he is very much the source material. It was like Stan Lee's baby. And I think one reason why I really liked Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated show, is that it took Kirby's direct comics and almost animated it based off of that style. And what's really cool is that you're able to still have an homage to the past, but not forcing it down our throats. If you ask somebody who read that comic when it came out, do you think this could happen in live action? They probably would have said no, in all honesty. But here we are all these decades later, generations later, and we're just seeing like such elite comic pull. So I really enjoyed that for sure. And before we get on to like the more stuff in the trailer, I should say, I think one thing too that Spider-Man always does is it always references itself, but in the best way possible. I think when you look at any adaptation, you could relate it to another adaptation, whether you're a kid, you're a preteen adult, doesn't matter. I think whether it's referring to a video game, an animated movie, an animated TV show, they do a good job at really staying true to the universe. And that's something that not every superhero could say. A lot of people don't like Man of Steel because Henry Cavill is a borderline mogger or a farmer, but I think he's one of the best Superman that's ever been. A lot of people have an issue that Stephen Amell's Green Arrow is just Batman. But hey, it's one of the best superhero shows you could ever watch. It doesn't matter that it's not the traditional Green Arrow. It's still a fantastic adaptation. With Spider-Man, we do see different kinds of adaptations, but more or less two sides of the same coin versus completely different things. I'm never going to look at Peter Parker and think, oh man, this is cool, but he's literally just Thor, the way other fans did with other superhero adaptations. With Tom Holland specifically, I think he's been under a lot of scrutiny, for his, I guess, Tom Holland plus. It's never just been him. But when you look back to old Spider-Man comics, that's how it always was, right? Like, I can't hate that we're finally getting a live-action Spider-Man that's able to play within the universe. Like, if Tobey Maguire, was really able to have Doctor Strange in the film, like they referenced, that would have been cool. If the X-Men were really able to show up in Fantastic Four the way the deleted scene suggested that they'd met, that would have been really cool. But back in the 2000s, we weren't allowed to play within the universe. We had our teams and our villains. That was it. There was no cameos. There was no crossovers. And as cool as it was to see in the 90s, it was almost like a disservice that the decade later did all these in live actions, but separate. So we're finally getting Tom Holland, we're finally getting a Spider-Man, I should say, that could properly play within the universe of New York. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So first things first, the key to the city. Now, Tom Holland's adaptation has got it. And now there's a lot of alarming things that I have at this scene, which we're going to touch upon momentarily. But I really enjoy that. I like that we see him receive the key. It's definitely like establishing that New York is where this movie is going to be. And that leads into the next image here, where we are joined by none other than the one and only Punisher. Frank Castle is back. And what's really cool about this is that if you've watched Daredevil Born Again, we know that he's casted away, but then this film takes place after season 2 of Born Again and the Punisher special. So that's almost going to my next point now, which is spoilers, but I think these two scenes reveal a lot for Daredevil Born Again season 2. We did see Daredevil appear in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I included this image because Daredevil was voiced by Charlie Cox. So I was like, you know what, this is true. So while we just touch upon this for a quick second here, I want to establish a few things. So I believe now that after seeing Spider-Man get the key to the city, not from Wilson Fisk, I will say that Daredevil, probably rocking this exact suit in season 2 coming up, will defeat the Kingpin. And I think, as much as that was maybe obvious, I do think that this scene in the trailer kind of confirms that. And same thing with the Punisher. The Punisher had like the biggest bounty on him in New York, but now he's back fighting people, helping in the streets. Yeah, I think Frank Castle in his special is going to establish that he is back and he's here to stay. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. I don't necessarily think that it's good that they've essentially spoiled it. However, that just put our like superhero knowledge to the forefront here. Were they really going to give us Spider-Man Brand New Day in a city that was being ran by Wilson Fisk? Like, that alone causes so many side plots that we unfortunately do not have time for. So am I mad? No. We're going to touch upon Daredevil later, but I'm really excited to see Frank Castle, played by Jon Bernthal. Shout out to my boy Taryn from the Book of Boba Fett episode. He actually met Jon Bernthal and has his autograph, so shout out to you. But yeah, so moving on now to more characters on the ground. And finally, I feel like if this was a WWE promo, I would say finally, The Rock has come back to, and then New York, because finally, Scorpion has come back to New York. Oh my God, it has been so long since we've seen this brother on screen. We got Michael Mando, I should say, because we're not boys, so I'm not going to call him Mike. But Michael Mando is finally back as the Scorpion, and after years of tease, years of where is he, an animated appearance here, a interview there, he's finally back and his suit looks crazy. I don't know about anyone else, but I am very excited to finally see this character come to life. We saw him in Friendly Neighborhood and he was amazing. Now we're going to see him in live action. Now to the next character that we have the one and only, well, Tank Lady? Yeah, Gertrude maybe. Yeah, don't know who this character is, but we do know that something is controlling this character that they do say that we can't even see. It's that big of a threat. So we're gonna spin back on that. But before we do have more villains at hand. See what I did there? because we have the hand. These guys are in the film as well. This scene in the trailer was pretty crazy because this is when I guess Tom Holland is kind of tweaking out on the floor, and then he just locks in after getting those black eyes. But the hand is going to be really cool to see these guys in live action. And I don't really know much about them, honestly, so I don't really have a lot of expectations. They are ninjas, and that's from my tech Eldon Atkins saying that they are ninjas. So thank you so much for that. Maybe kind of like Marvel's League of Shadows. I don't know if I'm off by saying that, but we'll see. I feel like if there was a Ra's al Ghul, we would know, but we'll see how that plays out. But now, coming up next, we have probably the biggest talking point from the trailer, I would say, and it's the question of who this is. Now, a lot of people think that this is Sadie Sink, and I wouldn't mind that, honestly. Sadie Sink, she was in Stranger Things. I did not watch that. I heard the finale was terrible, but I'm sure she was probably good. And she's now found herself in the MCU. And she is allegedly playing one of the most intriguing and alpha level threat mutants, Jean Grey. So I do have this photo of Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen there from the X-Men films. And I want to get this one specifically because, this does look familiar. Eldon, didn't we have a photo that was similar to this earlier? Because I don't know about you, but are we seeing the same thing here? I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say this. I think I don't know if it's going to happen, but has Sadie Sink's Jean Grey given Peter Parker the Phoenix Force in that scene to overcome? Now, that might be wishful thinking, but it's one thing to have wishful thinking. It's one thing to be real. Regardless of the two, I think it's an amazing reference. As soon as I saw Tom Holland's Spider-Man get those black eyes, I immediately thought of Jean Grey from the 2000s. And I think it's pretty cool. So, like I said, Marvel always does a good job at referencing themselves, not in a way to have fan service, but just stuff like that. So I do believe that this could be the start of something good, but it could be very interesting here for sure, if that is the Phoenix Force. Now, Sadie Sink has not been confirmed to be playing Jean Grey, so I'm going to asterisk that, and it might not even be her. That's why I'm not going to go too deep in on that. Shout out to Sum41, but I'm not going to go too deep because we just don't know yet. But fingers crossed that Sadie Sink is Jean Grey and is given the Phoenix Force, that threat that they can't even see, is giving it to Peter Parker for that one scene alone. Now, moving on, before we close out, there are two people that I'd love to see, and I'm so sorry to Marvel Rivals, but it's not Cloak and Dagger, but I would love to see Daredevil and Moon Knight. Oh my God, bro. It would not be this kind of movie without these two. And take everything I said about Daredevil Born Again. I think there's a realistic shot that Daredevil's in this movie. I think if he's able to defeat Wilson Fisk, he's able to reclaim New York, reclaim Hell's Kitchen, Frank's back, why not? We've already seen Charlie Cox play Daredevil accompanied by a Spider-Man. Why can't we see it in live action? We've seen him in live action as Matt Murdock as well in No Way Home. Don't forget about that. But I'm praying that we get Daredevil in this movie. Now, Moon Knight is more of a wish/fantasy. I think it could still work. Yeah, like two of the personalities thank you so much, Eldon. Two of them still remember who Peter Parker is. So we are fingers crossing this, and you might be thinking, Justin, where could that even fit? Next image here. I'm telling you, they're teasing us. I am telling you, they are literally teasing us, just like in the previous Marvel movies ever. You mean to tell me that there aren't two characters below Spider-Man in that? I am hoping that it is Daredevil. I am praying. Like if you look at the ninja at the bottom, clearly they're going straight and not up. So they have to be going for someone that could fight along Spider-Man. And I genuinely think if it's not Moon Knight, it has to be Daredevil. If it's not, I'm not going to be too disappointed, but I just think it would be like the cherry on top of the icing that is the cake of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And before we wrap it up, I just want to say, I am very excited for this movie. I can't wait for it to come out. And I was saying to Eldon that it almost feels like a grand christening of the character of Spider-Man that we knew from the comic books and the comic books alone, finally coming to live action. We kind of saw that with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and now we're going to finally see it in live action. And I'm really hoping that that's what we get. I'm very excited. This trailer is fresh. It came out last night, or yesterday morning, I should say, and I just had to do an episode on it today. So before we wrap it up, I want to say thank you again to Eldon for teching. It's been really fun. Thank you so much. Off camera, we'll do our Ned and Peter handshake that we totally have. But yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode so far. It is a It's not even an FNF Friday, actually. It is like a TNT. Oh my God. Yeah, it's that kind of day. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy. Please let me know what you guys think about not only this episode but the upcoming movie. I want to know everyone's thoughts on the trailer, what they want to see, who they don't want to see, maybe references here, references there. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And before we go, we get to see this last image right here. This was my favorite reference. If you know, you know. I don't even got to pull up the second photo there. But yeah, thank you guys again so much. Don't forget that you can follow us on DCSA Media Hub. And you can follow me on Instagram at Justin on the air, separated by underscores. Thank you guys so much for watching Screenshot. I've been Justin, live from the Media Hub on RiotRadio.ca.